I'd like to call the meeting of the City of Hudson Public Works to order. It's Tuesday, December 29th, 2015, 5:30 PM. First up on the agenda is consideration of Public Works Committee meeting minutes. I will make a motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, item number 2, the moment we're all waiting for here. Everyone seems to be gathered for the properly stated picking up of yard waste pickup at Valley Commons located in Red Cedar Canyon. Anybody want to take this one, Tom, or?
Sure. We received a email from, or I guess it was sent to Deb, from Nicole Battles.
I don't think she's not here.
She's not here? And it was regarding picking up of yard waste, and the issue is that she lives on the area of Red Cedar Canyon townhomes, or the row townhomes, and their concern is that they would like the advanced disposal pickup of yard waste to go in a private driveway. After speaking with advanced disposal and specifically Todd, they have issues with safety and driving down private driveways and actually driving in and backing out. So if Todd would like to, speak on this, you can go to the microphone and certainly state your case and the reasons why you do not, and how that pertains to our agreement that's in, I believe, our agreement that is in place from 2015 to 2019.
Yep. The yard waste service is a subscription service, so it's an agreement between us and the actual customer, and it states that it has to be curbside. And for all the yard waste customers that we service in Hudson, we pick up at the curb. Either in two types, the people either pay for the prepaid tags that they pick up at the market, or else they have the 90-gallon cart service. We do not go down any alleys. We do not go down any private driveways. In the case of 400 Valley Commons, there was a request that was put in for us to pick up a prepaid bag service. They wanted, we said we had no problem. We said place it at the curbside. Curbside would be Valley Commons or Wedgewood or Canyon Boulevard. The distance between 400 Valley Commons and Valley Commons itself is about a distance of 3 feet. So the customer wanted the bag in their driveway, which would make us have to drive back down the driveway to pick it up. But from their front door, it's a 3 foot, roughly about 3 foot, probably a little bit more than that. We don't provide that service for anybody else, and I don't think we should get in the practice of making exceptions, because then it opens up some additional things that we would have to talk about per the contract and number of trucks we would need to run to be efficient.
Is that a liability issue, or is that just standard policy, or?
All of the contracts that we have, it's all our yard waste services, with the exception of one contract, are curbside. So we, and that is specific language in that contract that allows us to go down through the alleys, or requires us to follow a set route, which is dictated by the city contract.
And I think that contract and page 14, I don't know if the count committee is included in the minutes. It's on page 14. It says charge for additional items based on curbside pickup. And on the first two items, it's bag leaves, grass clippings, not to exceed 30 pounds, and 95-gallon yard cart. But then prior to that, it says charges for additional items based on curbside pickup.
Yep.
So the language is, curbside pickup is in the contract.
And we had one other instance in Valley Commons where we had a resident that, you know, had the similar type situation, and they had been previously picked up in the past. And, you know, we have, in the two cases at 400, both were replacement drivers that were unfamiliar, that were on that route just specifically for that day because of staffing issues that we may have had. So, you know, we've also taken steps with our customer service folks, because we did have some issues with the first go-around with a customer that, there's only two customers that have used the yard waste service at the Valley Commons. There are a total of 6 that have at one time participated within the last 3 years. 4 of those were for Christmas trees, and 2 were for bags, and one customer was a lady that I spoke to earlier in the season, who had bags that were so heavy that she couldn't carry them down to the end of the street. I sent my route manager over there to pick those up, and upon the examination, they were dirt. And dirt is not considered compost, it is rubbish and can go in the trash. And we explained that to her and educated her, and since then, we have not had her call back in for that service. So I think, you know, with a town homeowners association, and I'm assuming that the grass is, and the landscaping is taken care of by their you know, landscape company, there would really be very minimal reason for them, or no reason at all, to use the yard waste service.
So again, this was a request to bring it before the Public Works Committee and discuss it, I don't know.
Did either one of you have anything to offer? Is that why you're here for the, okay. Would you like to come to the microphone and? Okay. Do you live at Valley Commons?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Mark Vermillion. I'm on the board for Red Cedar Canyon Row Homes.
Thanks,
and,
Todd. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just asked to represent along with Chris Barnes, who's also on the board.
Okay.
And we weren't the ones that were dealing with this, but we, nonetheless, were kind of roped into it. So as far as, you know, his explanation to me seems fine. I was under the understanding that they were meaning they weren't going to come into the canyon at all, which he obviously, yeah. And so to me, dragging things to the end of the drive, that seems reasonable to me. And
Okay.
to his point, we do have a yard, you know, we contract out for landscaping. So, I mean, I think the things they're trying to throw away, they're digging out of a pond that we have, when really, do they need to be doing that? I don't know. So to me, I'm fine with his response. It seems reasonable to me, and I don't see any reason to keep pursuing it or get him to drive down, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Mark. We were kind of middlemen in this, and so we had no idea what the background really was. We thought this was a bigger issue. I thought it was a bigger issue.
Okay. Well, that's good, actually, I think.
Thank you.
So I guess at this point, Jim, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I live on a private drive, and you do pick up our yard waste. Come in and pick it up.
The address, that's
604 Grandview. There's 5 townhouses, 5 houses there, and 4 of us generate. It's not townhomes. They're not connected, but they're individual town, but still classed as a less than a house, less than a family home.
But does the yard waste, you put your yard waste out on the curbside?
Yeah, I don't know what you mean by curbside, because it's a private drive at that point, the end of my driveway.
Yeah.
And
Valley
Yeah,
Commons is
so-
actually backing into their driveways.
Yeah, so we have one private road that goes through.
Which is Valley Commons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
Which we'll pick up off of that, because it's right curbside, but I won't back down the driveways that, to the townhome garages. Is that
okay,
correct?
so it's actually driveways, it's not.
Yes, they're driveways, that's
so
what I
we
want to
have
state it, yeah.
Row homes, and then the driveways run the length of those row homes
Mhm.
off of
Mhm.
Valley
So
Commons.
what you're saying is you'll go to the end of our driveway. to
Yeah, to
Valley
the end,
Commons.
yes,
Okay,
into
so all we have to
Wedgwood,
do is
or even
really-
onto Canyon Boulevard. If they place them out there, then, you know, that is in line with what we're doing with the homes on the other side.
Okay, so if she's at Valley Commons, her house faces Wedgewood, but Valley Commons runs this way, so she just has to put it really.
Right.
she
Right outside the front
technically
door.
has to go to Wedgewood, she can just go to Valley Commons.
Yeah, that Valley Commons right outside her front door, it's roughly 3 or 4 feet to the curb, and we'll pick it up, but we don't want it back down the private driveway. This is a better way of
So
saying
it's the
it.
people like me that live at 410, we actually have to walk the 8 houses.
That sounds clear to me.
As long as we're on this, can I just bring up a couple of issues? First of all, Todd, I don't know if you or Brad could do me a favor, you know, as far as snow plowing, you know, the contract says curbside. I think a lot of residents assume that that means street side, which they put their garbage cans on in the street. It's not only very difficult in the winter to go around them, and then people, when they do get dumped over by the snowplow, then they're angry at our snowplow drivers, and it's inevitable that trash cans could and have a high likely to get knocked over, and then they're angry at us. And they even expect us to pick up the mess. If there's any way possible to put that on an invoice, and if we could possibly get that on the, you know, water bill or something, that there is a difference between street side and curbside, and get those trash cans off the street on the boulevard or in the driveways where they belong, and not only in the winter time, but it's also a hindrance when we try to clean the streets with a street sweeper in the summertime.
We can,
So-
we'll look into that and see what we can.
You know, if there's some way just to get people educated, I know we try to, you know, we're gonna do flyers or something, but
And the other thing we can do is educate the customer service reps, so when people call in, at least they'll be able to give them the correct information, to make sure they understand it.
appreciate that. And could you clarify the Christmas tree pickups? And I know that is, again, like you stated, that it's not, you know, Christmas trees won't be picked up in alleys because of the size of the garbage truck. And that's something else that we have to talk about, is the reason that they can't go down and pick up in the alleys. And a lot of times it's just the size of the garbage truck has gotten larger, and there's retaining walls, and there's bushes and trees, and we try to maintain the width of the 16-foot alleys, but it's very difficult. And then the construction of the alleys are such where they can't handle these big trucks. I mean, in my drive, you know, I have a blacktop alley, and the ruts are probably, you know, where the garbage truck picks my trash cans up, it's like this. I personally wish, I wouldn't even mind bringing my trash can out to the curb, because my alley's getting wrecked by the garbage trucks. But anyway, Christmas tree pickup, could we have dates? And again, to remind the people that that is curbside and not in the alleys or.
We will be running the first 2 weeks of January, which begin on the 4th and the 11th, I believe. And then the pickup date will be Fridays. We will do all the Christmas trees on Fridays, just like the yard waste pickups. So we'll be running. So if a person has a tree and they call in for the first week, we would pick it up on the Friday after the 4th.
Okay,
So
so it's just for 2 weeks, and then after
just for
that,
2 weeks per
that's
the-
it.
yeah, per the contract.
So,
Homeowner's
If there are-
responsible.
If we need to go back, then, you know, those can be handled on a case-by-case basis, you know, through our customer service. That's good.
But that would be additional charge.
Yes.
so Fridays, a week from Friday, and then the following, so
Yes.
the second 2 Fridays
Yes.
in January.
So we
Okay,
should put that on
Christmas
the
tree
website or
pickup.
something.
So we'll put that on our website for those of you that are listening at home, and just for people in general. So
Thank you.
maybe some kind of, Devin could do a message on that from whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's really good. Thank you. Is okay, and thank you for stopping and.
Yeah, thank you all for coming, and thanks for clearing that up.
Clarification, thank you.
You know, our job is to basically service the citizens of Hudson, and we take a lot of pride in that. And so if there are, you know, problems or issues, we're always, you know, willing to work with, you know, any of the customers to resolve the issues. We're not trying to, you know, deprive people of the service that they're paying for. We just need to do it so it can remain cost effective for both yourselves and for us. And so we appreciate the opportunity to service this community, and thank you very much.
Yep, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Happy New Year, everybody.
That, it does raise it. I'm hearing an issue that the container should not be out on the street. And that's pretty much violated all the time.
Yep.
Go Tuesday, or tonight, this is Tuesday night, go down the street 2 blocks from my house, and there will be 50 trash cans sitting on where the townhouses are. There'll be 50 trash cans in your jurisdiction, Tom. So there'll be a bunch of them out there.
My spin would be a little bit different in that, don't put your garbage can out there if you know the snowplow's gonna come by.
That's it, you know, that's the only issue.
Snow plowing, you know, with the cars parked on the street, so it makes it very difficult. And, I know the drivers would appreciate if they were off the streets. And, you know, talking with Todd earlier, that pretty much Monday through Friday, they have different routes throughout the city. You know, Mondays, you know, 2nd Street, the downtown area. Tuesdays, the high school area. Wednesdays, middle school area.
Sorry, we're gonna close the door here.
Thursday, I think, Beaneman Farms, Red Cedar Canyon's Friday. So, I mean, I mean, the pickup service is Monday through Friday, so it's hard to, you know, to say, oh, you know, put the trash cans out on a certain day, because we never know when the snow's coming either, so.
So does that need to be included in the ordinance is about having the cars in the way, and the warning that goes out is about the cars. But it's just as bad to put something 3 feet out into the street as it is to have a car there.
I guess I would agree with that. And, you know, if you forget, like, in my, in front of my house, I've got sidewalks, I got a driveway, my snowbanks are already built up just after this last snowstorm. So how do you get your garbage cans either in the driveway? You can't put them on the boulevard because now it's too high. So but I know it's not going to snow tomorrow, so if my garbage day is tomorrow, I'm probably going to cheat them out on the street a little bit. But that, you have to expect that that's going to be your own fault if you stuck the garbage can outside of your driveway, right?
But I have seen people that shovel their a little spot off on the boulevard,
Yep.
containers. Yeah, it's a little more work, but I've
That's
seen
true.
people on Vine Street are very diligent. They, you know, where they will shovel a specific spot.
I'll remember that.
Oh, gosh.
All right, is that, anybody else, Tom? Anything on that? Okay, good. Moving on, item number 3, I believe we're on here. And discussion of possible action on request for a deed a 20-foot wide parcel located west of 1511 Freer Street. Parcel has a stormwater main that exists. Angela and Anthony Herrera, who are not present at the moment. Is that you, Tom?
I can speak on it a little bit, that we did receive a request from it's a Tony Herrera from 1511 First Street. And appears that there was a discrepancy in the chain of title and some of the, specifically with the easement, stormwater easement. Liz typed up I think it's printed in your packet, kind of a time log of the, how things have started since 1953 to the current request of Tony and Angela Herrera. It appears that there was some discrepancies, and if you look on the map that was in your packet, you can see that the yellow line, the yellow area is actually a stormwater easement. And excuse me, the blue is the easement, and the yellow is a 1953 plat designation. So I guess it's the committee, we're just requesting permission to move forward to get this rectified, and The only thing that we want to make sure is that we have an easement that we can maintain that storm sewer pipe, and if there's any discussion on if there's, going to be some kind of payment in lieu of getting that 10 or 15 feet, or 10 or 20 feet of property to the new homeowners.
So just to be clear here, the blue is the current easement, and the yellow is the,
Yellow is a
Vacated.
1953 plat designation. The green says it's the overlap area of plat. The green is the city-owned area.
and then there's an overlap of the 1953 plat designation and the easement, the blue easement. So that's the area in question, the
Yeah.
overlap? Okay.
I guess the only thing we want to make sure that we maintain that easement area to have maintenance on our storm sewer pipe.
Hey, Tom, just a question. Is the yellow an easement that exists now to the city?
I thought I had a better.
That was what I thought that it was, and then on the last page, it shows the easement and the storm sewer outlet right in the very corner.
Well, I'm looking at this,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
and
I guess, to me,
it's,
it's better if you look at this.
it's got the 19, who prepared this, by the way?
Liz Moline actually worked on that.
Okay, so the 1953 plat designation is designed to show what? The yellow is designed to show us what?
I wish I had that different map. I had a different one.
Are you talking about this?
The last page.
Yeah.
I don't have that in mine. Do you guys have this yellow, this smaller map right here?
Yeah, it's on the
Oh,
list.
yeah, I do. Yep, sorry. Thanks, Tom.
So, that yellow is a city parcel, and if you see that, stormwater easement line, I think this explains it a little easier, the smaller map.
Okay,
And then you see on Freer Street, there's a black dot right by the number 3 there. That's the corner stake of the property right now.
all right,
They're asking to get that from there, the extra 20 feet to the width of that yellow. They want to acquire that area in the yellow.
do they want to acquire it, or do they want
That,
the
right now,
city-
that's city property, and they would like to acquire that. What we want to make sure is that if they do, if the city council or, would move forward with this request, that we make sure that we have at least a 20-foot easement. I'm thinking, and maybe Tom could help me on this, but from that property stake where that number 3 is, that's currently where an asphalt driveway is. I would think that we want to not say it's a 20-foot easement, that we would want a 30-foot easement and then go 10 feet from that property line, because if we ever have to do any repairs on that pipe, we're going to be into that driveway at least 10 feet. So I would, in language, if we make some kind of agreement, or if they draft an agreement, we'd have to have Catherine review it. But I would say that we want a 30-foot easement, and then from that corner stake to the east, we want a 10, at least 10 feet minimum. And if we ever would have to construct that cost of repair of that driveway would be on their, they would
Okay,
burden
so-
those expenses.
So what they're saying is that this one that was prepared by Liz, that the yellow easement was in error.
That's what it appears, and that's, that's the way it was recorded back, and
Okay, so what they're saying is that should be going toward the blue on the big map.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what, it-
That's what I think, they think they're, yes, sir.
Here it says they're asking for 10 feet, easterly 10 feet of Lot 4, Block 6, not the full 20 feet. Is that,
that's what they're asking, but
the easterly 10 feet of Lot 4, which would, but the utility is basically running in that 10 feet of lot, easterly 10 feet of Lot 4.
So lot 4
That's
is,
the way
if
I
you
see
see
it.
the corner post of lot 4, they're requesting to go 20 feet from there
Which direction?
to the east.
Into lot 3?
That's their property is lot 3, yes.
They own Lot 3, they want another 10 feet, is the way I read it. We are requesting the city deed us the easterly 10 feet of Lot 4, Block 6. The city would reserve a utility easement for the storm sewer and also accept the slight encroachment of the utility shed on and blacktop. So what are we going to recommend, make a recommendation, or do we want to have somebody look at this a little closer? Or did this just, what do you guys want to do?
I would say just, if the committee would like to just say, okay, we can move forward with some type of an agreement, and then, once that agreement is, we can approve, or, send it off to Catherine, and then we could vote on it, or, send it to common council, or bring it back to, committee.
So if we agree to do this, at some point, if we have to tear that up, we're gonna be tearing up their driveway and,
I would say that should be part of their agreement, that they, that they know that that was, that they put a driveway on city property.
yeah.
And same way with the sheds actually encroaching, I think, a little bit on the,
It seems like it has to be at their risk.
that should be included in the, whatever agreement. What's your feeling on, right now this is city land, I mean, that would this have to go to the planning commission that, as far as the property,
I think we should get Catherine's take on it and bring it back here first. I'm not trying to drag it out, but
Yep.
you know what I'm saying? Just in case, it might not even be something that,
I don't think it's, like emergency or anything. I think it's
okay.
just, send it maybe to Catherine and have her review it and get her recommendation.
I guess that would be,
Yep.
yep.
Yeah. What are the downsides to doing this?
I think anything, even if Catherine does some review, I think that the property owner should,
They should pay for
incur
it.
those costs.
Yeah, they should pay for it. It looks to me like they just want the city to deed it. I don't see anything in here about payment. I guess their point is that the mistake was made by the developer long ago, and they're saying that our deed doesn't show the extra 10 feet that we thought we were buying, is essentially it. So the city's got to decide if they want to sell that, or who's liable for that mistake. Not the city's problem.
Is there any issue with, they've probably maintained it, or that property has been maintained since 1953, and I don't know what the laws stand at.
On adverse possession or prescriptive easement or that sort
Very
of thing.
possible.
Yeah, I think I'd ask Catherine about it.
All right. We'll send it off to Catherine and just for her review and her
Okay.
comments, and bring it back next meeting.
You want a motion on that, or?
I don't think so.
Okay, fair enough. We'll leave it at that then. Thank you.
Maybe, Tom, one thing is if somebody could go out and look at where that utility shed and blacktop is
Yep.
and how far it, what its effect is on this, because that might affect the deeding or the easement, right?
Absolutely. If we would have to maintain that sewer line, there's no way that we could dig it up without just, disturbing that driveway and possibly that shed.
And/or the shed, yeah.
Yeah.
So that anything, in any kind of agreement should include language that states, acknowledges those two items for sure.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to item number 4, discussion and possible action on the costs associated with The painting of crosswalks on Carmichael Road, Cooley Road, and Crestview Drive.
I know we talked a little bit about it last time, and then there was at the last meeting, and this is a request from Dan Schwab about some crosswalks up on Carmichael Road. And then I think Denny Darnold spoke that he didn't figure that there was any other crosswalks within the city. After looking at Crestview Drive, there have been some private driveways painted inadvertently, possibly, I don't know if it was when we did the sealed the walk path project, or if our crews, if my crew painted them inadvertently, but that's something we normally do not do, is paint private driveways. I mean, only, public streets, and put, stop signs, and we try to stay out of like driveways that would go into the Chevrolet dealer or Walmart or Walgreens or whatever. But I did get some costs. I think that was a request from someone at the last meeting. For a contractor, we just got one contractor to give us some estimates. For approximately 30 crosswalks, he would estimate about $300 each for layout and painting. If we had more, maybe it might drop to $250. Currently, the city crew, with the painting that we have, to add on another 60 crosswalks, we could not internally do this. So it would have to be contracted out. And right in this year, we wouldn't have money budgeted for this. If you take 60 crosswalks at $300 or $250, I don't know what that is, Deb.
Oh, I don't know, he just said
Do you have a
9,000.
calculator, John?
I'll work on it, I can do it.
I don't have that budgeted in the 2016 budget for contractual.
15,000.
The only thing we have in contractual for is center line painting, and that pretty much gets used up for the, the center lines on, and the main streets.
Why are you talking about doing did you say 60 crosswalks?
If we were to say, do the ones on Carmichael Road, I just went around and counted. There would be some on Hagan Street, there's some on if we start doing private streets, the price would be, at about 30 crosswalks, would be $300. If we had 60 crosswalks, it would be dropped down possibly to $250. That's just an example, it's not.
What's the public policy reason that your department has not done those in the past?
We have never done private crosswalks on private driveways or put signage on private driveways. It's liability. It's also setting a precedent that we don't want to do any work on, generally we don't do work on private property. Now all of a sudden we're painting, then does that put it as, liability on us? Then there's also stop signs on most of those. It'd be private driveways coming out of their property, onto like Crestview Drive or Hagan Street or Carmichael.
If a private property owner owned property on both sides of a area that was a street going through, could he do that by himself? Put a crosswalk in?
I don't know why he couldn't. It's his driveway.
The city wouldn't object to it.
I don't know why they would. I guess it would be their property, or, their driveway if they'd like to. So I guess we could request the property owners to do that. I don't know if that'd be like same way we just did, Cooley Road, Target, Family Fresh, Associated Bank, Applebee's, or, that strip mall with Applebee's and those other businesses there. We could have painted all those crosswalks, but those are all private, and they didn't get painted, to the best of my knowledge, because they're all private.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what the basis for it is, that's all.
Well, the original request was on Carmichael at like, was it Culver's and
Walgreens and
the golf course, the old golf course clubhouse in there, because there's a trail there, but turns out that that trail keeps on going all the way down the frontage road, and there's one on the south side too, on that frontage road, Crestview. So I think the last time we just wanted to have, you know, is it cost prohibitive? Well, 15,000 really isn't that cost prohibitive if that were a policy, but we don't have that policy in place. And what do you get by painting lines on private driveways even? So I think I believe we kept it on here because we're getting some kind of general idea of how much it would actually cost. At this point, there's no policy or ordinance in place to do it. We could throw this over to public safety and have them take a crack at it, or we could just let it go.
Well, I think I'd like to know what the
Didn't it come,
liability might be.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I just was saying I would like to know what the city's liability would be for doing it, and where does it end? I mean, do private property owners then want you to do other things, signage? No.
possibly.
So,
Possibly.
You know, I think the intent is good. I mean, to keep, you know, safety, because obviously we're maintaining the path, right? The blacktop paths are.
Any adjacent property owners generally take care of the path in front of their business.
All the way
city,
down the
like
frontage
all the way
roads. and-
Carmichael Road and Cooley Road, we do not maintain those.
This was from the last.
Who built those?
Yeah,
Who built those originally?
I don't know.
As part of the development, they probably went in. But it's similar to any sidewalk downtown here. I mean, the property owners maintain the sidewalks.
But they don't repair it though. And they,
If we were to do a remove and replace, like in our sidewalk program, we assess, the current assessment policy is 50%. In fact, we might be talking about that soon, about the assessment policy, not tonight, but.
So we're saying these are all private sidewalks? Two?
No, they're city sidewalks, but they're maintained by the adjacent property owner.
Like the sidewalk in front of my house? I
Yes.
have to shovel that?
Yes,
Okay, but the city owns that?
yes.
Okay.
It's within the street right away.
Okay.
okay, I think this did come from the Public Safety Account Committee.
Can we send it
That's
back
when
to you guys?
To
or-
do that. You keep
Yeah,
bouncing
it's
back
been
and forth.
a few times.
I'm not on that committee anymore, so,
Okay.
but they did ask us to, they sent it, as I remember, they sent it to us to take, to take further action on it. They said it was it is a safety issue.
Yes.
We have
But you've got public streets, there's public sidewalks, and every 100, 200 feet, you've got a fairly, in some cases, a fairly heavily traveled crossing.
I guess I'll make a motion to send it back to public safety with the knowledge, giving them the estimate of what it would cost, and with an uncertainty from us as to whether or not we want to set precedents by painting private driveways.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Discussion.
I'm sorry, Jim, discussion?
We already have set a precedent by doing it on the west side, the south side of the, all those are painted. From the post office corner up to,
Oh, on Hagan Street.
yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
All the way, no, on the frontage road there. They're all painted.
On Crestview.
Crestview Drive.
And that was the one Tom was saying, we don't know for sure how it how it happened,
Okay.
but it was done. And that is an issue if I avoid that on my bicycle, but I have ridden it, and you're doing this kind of thing to watch for the traffic turning in and
Well, I don't want to pass the buck just to pass the buck, but wouldn't be the public safety be the group to establish further precedents on that?
Yeah, Public Works gave you the amount. Now, public safety can look at it.
Okay,
Yeah,
sounds good.
I think that's probably correct.
Yeah.
What's the, what is the liability, what is the responsibility to do it there? We know what it's gonna cost. Okay,
Okay, I'll ask again. All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
All right, opposed? All right, motion carries. Thanks, you. All right, moving on to more challenging stuff here. Discussion and possible action, number 5, on the city's procurement policy. I know that variety of, all the departments fall under this procurement policy. I guess I'll pass along in a second here, but a couple notable items that we typically have lowered our limit from the state's minimum at 25,000 down to 15,000, which is the big notable thing that I've noticed. Do you want to take a crack at this one again, Tom? or-
Yeah, actually, Tom, Sifko, and Kip, we all talked this morning, and I think we're all in agreement that the current procurement policy seems like it's quite a bit lower than the state guidelines. And I think it's our opinion that it would be nice, it would be, seems like the current city policy is cumbersome, takes a lot of time. In the same, sentence, I'd like to say that we want to be within the guidelines of the state policy, which currently is quite a bit higher than ours. Also, there's other parts of the procurement policy I'd like to, address, especially policy where we get purchases on like a community. What's the,
Oh, the US community.
U.S. communities or a corporate bidding process. We've done that in the past. I know Catherine spoke different times, or we had, some information from her that's a little gray as far as the League of Municipalities and the state statutes. I'd like, be nice to get that, some clarification to that.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that clarification about what?
Like with municipalities purchasing with like a group from, it's called U.S. Communities, or the group purchases that's already pre-bid for
State pricing.
state.
Yeah, my understanding that is not a competitively bidded process, that they make deals with different providers to get the product. Do you have any information to?
No,
the
I'm
contrary?
just saying we have used it in the past, like when we got the roof for the library, and when we've done some purchases for our playground equipment. There's different vendors. When we did work with our LED lights, Gray Bar is part of the U.S. Communities. The roofing company, I forget the name of that, Garland Roofing Company was part of the U.S. Communities. So we have used it. Don't know if we were non-compliant or not, but we have used U.S. Communities. Kip showed me some information out of the League of Municipalities pamphlet this morning. And there's some frequently asked legal questions, and one of them was, talks about state law only requires competitively bidding for municipal contracts involving public construction with an estimated cost exceeding $25,000. Therefore, contracts that do not involve public construction are not subject to the state bidding law requirement. There are many types of municipal contracts that do not involve public construction. These include contracts for the purchase or sale of real estate, contracts for ambulance, refuge service, recycling or similar services, and contracts for purchase of fire trucks, dump trucks, backhoes, police cars, and other general equipment. They also include contracts for engineering, architect, and other professional services, even if related to municipal projects. So there's certain items that do not fall underneath that public construction that do not need to be publicly bid. According to this. I think we need some legal advice on that. I think that's where Catherine said there's some gray areas.
Do you feel like the current policy is too restrictive, or?
Yes.
I think it's, I mean, with me being new to this, I think for one, it's cumbersome. That's just my personal opinion. It seems like every time that we want to do something, we have to write an RFP up for it, instead of just going and, contacting vendors or somebody that we know and getting, I don't have an issue getting 2 or 3 prices. What Tom spoke to earlier about the community,
U.S. communities?
the U.S. communities, we had, now this was before I was here, but with the roof down at the sewer plant. I know my lead operator down there, like I said before I was here, had contacted Garland, who is in that system. Now, how they get there and what that, I don't know, but he had gotten a price from them to do the roof. It was rejected by city council for some reason, I don't know.
When was that?
It was sometime this spring, summer.
No, I don't think there was anything
It was
rejected.
rejected because she felt that it didn't meet the city's procurement policy.
Right.
Correct.
That's,
So that was rejected.
I think it was like September, October.
In the meantime, or after that, I contracted with SEH to, do the bid and specs and everything on that. I mean, we spent over $20,000 to have that done. So I guess I see it as, did we unnecessarily spend $20,000 to have that done when we already had a reputable company here earlier this year giving us a price on doing it? I guess that's where I'm confused on.
What was the amount again? It was several hundred
It
thousand.
was, the estimate was, well, we budgeted 400.
Okay.
So we haven't got the bids back on anything yet. They're actually due next week, but, so I guess we'll see where it comes in.
Without the competitive bidding, how do you know that Garland's price is the best one?
Well, but if we could have used that community, there's more than just one in there.
I see what you're
So
saying.
if we could have used them, and had 2 or 3 separate companies come in and give us a price, I wouldn't have had to put an RFP and a whole bidding spec process together and have multiple meetings on that and ultimately spend $20,000. I don't know if that's necessary for a project like that. I guess that's what we're here to
Sure,
talk about.
sure.
We're trying to figure that out.
Tom, how many of your purchases are more than 15,000 in a year?
Purchases or, okay, can I clarify that?
Well,
So
you-
purchases for construction or purchases for like vehicles or things like that?
Well, construction, we'll keep that out for now. Vehicles.
Vehicles, well, a pickup or a half ton, 3/4 ton, we're talking $20,000 to $30,000.
So, I can't remember the approval for this year, but how many of those in a typical year? Are there 5 or 10 or?
If you look at our capital request, I know we got maybe 1 or 2 1-tons last year. No, that's probably up in the 35,000 range. This year, we got a couple, 2 3/4 tons that are probably in the high 20s, probably 30,000. We also got a single axle dump truck with the plows and, the plow and everything, that's probably around the $200,000 price tag.
but, it's not just vehicles, it's contracting, well, I suppose that's construction, just for manhole replacements, for.
Yeah, that's
Well, for the
construction.
hoists, for the compressors, just, goes on and on, the list goes on and on, but.
Well, that's what I was wondering, how many of those are above 15?
There
Pretty-
isn't much you can get.
It's a lot.
Not a lot,
Yeah,
not a lot
15,000,
for 15.
No, Wait,
So how many competitive bids? So if we went with the state, I'll just cut to the chase. If we went to the 25,000 for non-construction bidding, then it would help you, are you saying it will help you out in terms of time and looks like money? Because depending on the kind of bid, then, seems like that will speed things up and not have to use a lot of staff time to do procurements under 25,000.
It would help us in construction projects, and then also, you know, I would like to see some clarification in the purchase of equipment and things like that, and a clarification on the, you know, the group, the group purchases with, like, US communities, like we just talked about. Just, you know, get a clarification and see where we're sitting, you know, with the state statute.
well, I think Tom was looking into, looking at possibly something was in the legislation right now, possibly with a dollar amount, but regardless of that, we had talked about the
I'll give
matrix.
my 2 cents.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah,
And Kip's new, I'm kinda, maybe almost a year and a half, approaching 2 years, but a little bit new coming in. My take on the policy here is, it seems to try to handle too much. In other words, it tries to take all purchasing and lump it into a policy, and, again, the focus on purchasing trucks, equipment, hoists, those types of things, to me fits, and that isn't my forte. I don't buy trucks, but if there's a method through the state bidding process, it seems to be a lot better way to go from the standpoint, as Kip mentions, cumbersome. When I look at the policy in general, again, and my focus would be probably more professional services type of thing, and under no circumstances do I think you should purchase professional services like you're buying a truck. They're totally different entities. In fact, there was some language from the previous purchasing policy that says
What
some
page?
professional services, this is from the policy before that one, and I don't, this
What
language is,
page are you on?
this page is, you aren't gonna find it,
in
because
our
this
po- it's
verbiage is
not
not
in
in
our
the new policy. Some professional services, the
stricken.
value of which are substantially measured by professional competence of the persons performing them, and which are not susceptible to realistic competition by cost alone, may be granted an exception to the procurement policy. That language was in, here it is, I didn't type it up. This was from, I don't know, I think 3-4 years ago, and I think this policy is dated October 1 of 2012. I don't see this verbiage in this policy, but that probably doesn't matter tonight, but to me, it differentiates the kind of the thing I'm bringing up about professional services being different. I mean, a lot of times, the council are asking are we bidding out this project out for services? And I've brought it up numerous times this year. I think the questions come up anyway in front of council, but, my response has been pretty much the same. Is the city went through a fairly painstaking process. I think we spent 4, 5, or 6 months. We went out for RFPs. I think there's, I don't know, maybe 10 respondents. We shortlisted to 5, we interviewed 5, then we had sit-downs, we had second interviews to select the 2 consultants we're using right now. But the idea from that, and everyone on the committee seemed to be on the same page, is we're not gonna bid out professional services on every single job. You would be spending an incredible amount of time writing RFPs, advertising, taking in 5 to 10, however many people or firms are gonna submit, and then a lot of staff time doing that. So we felt, and most of the council, I think, understood that in that 4 to 6 month process, by qualifying firms, interviewing firms, and eventually selecting 2 firms, that we're down to those 2 firms, and that work will be distributed based on the expertise of those 2 firms. But maybe I'm kind of veering off a little bit, but again, getting back to the policy, I think the starting point is, I have no idea why this policy should be more restrictive in dollar amount than the state statute, the 15 to 25. My personal opinion is the 25 is a very, very small number. I think in Minnesota they brought it up to 50, and I think it might even be 100,000 now, but It's also my understanding that somebody is currently reviewing that. I had a call into the League of Municipalities and another one into the State Procurement Office, and waiting, didn't hear back from either of those two. But I thought that there was a potential bill that might bring that $25,000 figure even up a little bit. Maybe they'll go to 50, I don't know, but I'm checking on that. So hopefully we'll get that back. But again, to me, the policy tries to do too much with all different categories. And I realize the city's got a lot of things, you have to purchase copying machines, computers, furniture for the city council, trucks, hoists, all that type of thing. And I don't know, to me, the policy should address those in different segments of different items as opposed to one policy fits all. I think, to your point on the roof gap, you might be stuck on that because I think that's gonna be determined to be a public works type project, and you might be locked into that 25,000 just because of that. But for equipment and some of these other things that you've been referring to, I don't know. I don't think that necessarily fits.
Well, I think you're talking about the page 5 cooperative purchasing, and that's what needs to be clarified on for the roof.
Right, I mean, if I look at the procurement policy, let's say I want to, wastewater needs to do trash pump. Okay, if it's $15,001, if that's what I'm thinking it's gonna be, that would fall under new contract services and equipment. It would fall between the 15 and 29,999,
Right.
or up to the 30,000. I need to prepare written specs. I need to do a public bid, I need to do a class 2 notification, then it has to go to the city administrator. Then the administrator and department head review written request for recommendation, it goes to the committees for approval. It's, required to have the department head sign, and then it gets approved by the city council for a $15,000 pump. That $15,000 pump just cost me $25,000. By the time we write all this up, it costs money to put things in the newspaper, things like that. And what, I guess, kind of what I'm, we're hired to be responsible for our own budgets. We watch our budgets, we're within our budgets. A lot of the stuff that we're purchasing, unless it's something that happens, outside of what we budgeted, it's already in the budget. For vehicles, for things of that nature. It's already been in there, it's already been approved, things like that. So I guess kind of that's what's confusing to me is where if I need to purchase a trash pump, it's gonna be a 3-month process to purchase that trash pump that I could possibly need, now. I mean, if I wanted to follow all the procedures. I guess that's just where I'm confused on a lot of this stuff.
I think at the time, and I was one of the members that voted for this adopted in October 1, 2012, to vote on this structure, I think it was even lower, wasn't it, at like 10,000?
I think it was 10,000, and then we went up to 15.
Yeah,
I think it was at 10.
I think some of us wanted to go higher, but it was still at the time where budgets were tight, tax revenues were tight, and we're like, let's just keep this strapped on, more restrictive so that we're not trying to spend more money than we have, and budgets were not nearly as easy as they were now. So, maybe it's time to just, up it again, or at least take a look at it. I certainly appreciate and don't want to be the one that says, oh yeah, we need to spend a bunch of money going through this procurement policy because we don't trust the people that are making the decisions. That was never really the case. I think it was just to try to get the best deal we could to work on more of a shoestring budget at the time. So it came much more, at least my recollection is, came much more from restricted budgets rather than trying to, put the micromanagement on department heads and having departments run efficiently. So I do not have a problem, at least, passing it on to finance in terms of the $25,000 limit. So besides that, if we were to raise to the state level, which might even be changing as well, did you say that, Kip?
I mean, we've all heard rumblings about it.
So if we were to be more in line with the state, that'd be one thing. Will that be enough to manage? But the procurement policy challenge, or you're talking about other stuff as well that's kind of a,
Yeah, no, I
I
think,
think,
I would go.
again, if the state raises the current $25,000 limit, that limit is primarily, my understanding now, is primarily focused on public works projects.
construction,
Correct.
yes.
Now, as far as buying vehicles, pumps, equipment, I'm not so sure that that's capped similarly to because the language specifically talks about public works construction projects, is the way I read that. But the other things, it seems to me that there could be something, the policy should be able to run smoother, and by smoother, I mean more cost-effective, more cost-efficient. To Kip's point, sometimes you're gonna spend $5,000 or $10,000 on a $15,000 item by going through policies. The other times, sometimes there's issues, again, we got our first snowstorm today, and typically this isn't a 12-month per year construction season that we live in. So sometimes timing is even a bigger factor than you had to spend another $5,000 or $10,000. Sometimes something comes up in August, and we want to get it fixed or repaired or something done or purchased before winter for some reason, and by the time you go through this process, you're already into winter. So there's a timing component as well as a dollar component of a policy that sometimes puts you a little bit behind the eight ball, so to speak.
One of the things that I heard was, it's already in the budget, so why do I need to go through this procurement? Well, one is to get a good price, but, so another breakdown would be budgeted versus non-budgeted items, like, would that be a fair assessment? Like, I really want this thing over here, but it wasn't in the budget, so now would you feel like I should go through a procurement policy for those items because it wasn't in the budget? You see what I'm saying?
For sure, you would have to go and at least request from the finance to get some funding reallocated, or ask for.
So there's a
funding.
process.
Yeah, that's always the process that we.
Yeah, that's already in place.
That's
Okay.
good.
Again, I guess I can see having a very set policy on construction, Vine Street. Okay, perfect example. We're going through it now. I can see having, where we have to do our, an RFP, we have to get bids, we have to do things like that. It just makes sense. But when it comes to pumps, vehicles, everything else, a trailer, whatever else we might need, I guess I'm not understanding why 2 to 3 to 4 competitive bids that we just call on the phone, call the company up, give me a bid, call that company up, give me a bid, things, I don't understand why that isn't, we're still getting competitive bids, we're still gonna get our best price. But if we do that, that does not fit this policy.
Well, we have verbal quotes on, is that 1 to 5 and 5 to 14?
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about earlier with Devin was in our office, and we were just, these need to be, the dollar amounts, if they were just adjusted, even if this were to meet the state statutes to go to 25, they're all gonna change all the ways down the row. I mean, you're gonna decide on equipment maybe to go to 50,000 or on, 50,000. Because then that way, then at least they can get the 3 quotes. We can prepare the bid tabulation, they can go down and get approved by Devin internally for a budgeted item. It would just make it a lot smoother,
It would make
easier.
it, yeah.
Yeah, I can see that
Because he's
totally.
reviewing them
Yeah.
anyhow at 15 and under, so let's bump it up, and he can review them at 25 and under, and equipment, of course, is different, and professional services, but.
Is there
it's-
a general standard that governs procurements in the city of Hudson? Like, just anything that says
No, it-
this is
it-
what
last
we
one
try
was
to
Policy's it.
The last
This-
one.
This is
do?
pretty much it.
That's not a standard, that's just a policy
Well,
outlining
no,
what you need
previous
to
to
do.
that, we actually did, it was more restricted in a sense, but I thought we went to the state statutes
Okay.
for public construction. We did.
That's the one from 2012, Kip, or?
Yeah, this is.
Yeah,
October 1st.
Yeah, October,
That's what I
This
was
is-
handed when I started.
yeah, okay, I haven't
This
seen
is-
this before.
Oh,
This
you
is
you
the-
haven't?
No.
You can have it.
That's the current city policy.
I've got one.
Yeah, I sent it to you.
Was it?
Should have gotten it.
Well, I'm sorry. Maybe I got it and I misplaced it.
Let's go back one second though, and I just want to make sure, and this is like maybe a Catherine state law only requires competitively bidding for municipal contracts involving public construction with an estimated cost exceeding $25,000.
Yep.
Therefore, contracts that do not involve public construction are not subject to state bidding law requirements. And then it went on to say about dump trucks and things like that. Just a little note on the last purchase of our dump truck, we did have, as you recall, we went out and I thought we could go off Minnesota state bid, found out that we couldn't. So we put together a specification. One line item, we missed one little bit of thing, and we had to rebid the whole thing, so we had to put it in the paper. And the other problem is that these people bidding on this, I mean, we had bids from Freightliner, Mack, Peterbilt. Our issue, or my issue, is that when we as we build our fleet, we don't want to have a hodgepodge of equipment and have a shelf full of alternators for Peterbilt, Mack, Freightliners, and blah, blah, blah. We have a history of, our mechanics and some of our guys know that there's an issue with certain vehicles that we really don't want, even if they are low bid. So it'd be nice to say, according to this, if we want to get a certain brand of dump truck, that we should be able to go out and get quotes for a specific dump truck that we want and we would like and feel that that's our best value, and that's what we'd like to keep consistent, our fleet going with this vehicle. Like Kip mentioned, we should be able to go out and say that we get quotes for that particular vehicle that we want without going through the process, because I know there was a couple people that bid on these things that spend a lot of time, and they were pretty upset when they were, low bid, and they didn't quite meet our specifications, and they spent a lot of time.
So if you have a truck in mind or a vehicle in mind, would you get quotes or bids from multiple?
I would assume that you could.
providers?
And just going from a local, one of our neighbors, municipal neighbors, they went off the Minnesota state bid. Had we gone off the Minnesota state bid, we would have saved $7,000 on our last dump truck.
Yeah, that's what you said.
I'm just saying, according to this verbiage that I just read, that we're not required to, go out for bid for those. But I think we have our due diligence to go out and get our best price and get quotes for that vehicle.
Well, if I could add one thing, I think to me, we could have Catherine, to me, the legal question should be verified, and it's pretty simple. State, like Tom's read it 2 or 3 times tonight, the state law only requires competitive bidding where you advertise Class 1 or Class 2 notice in the paper for public construction projects exceeding $25,000. Okay, if we just verify that that's a true statement in the law, then to me, my opinion would be the balance of these other issues. Maybe this could be rewritten, rethought on more of a purchasing type policy. And then maybe you want to have for $10,000 purchases, you do have a process. We're not advocating throw everything out and just go willy-nilly buying things. But I think, again, this, if you look at this matrix,
Yeah.
just alone, it's trying to incorporate everything in the world in one 8.5 by 11. And to me, that doesn't make sense. Professional services is in there, buying a dump truck is in there, going and buying somebody that's gonna, it's too all, so to me, if you verify that the state law only mandates public works construction projects with a 25,000 cap, hopefully that will be different, but who knows? Then we know that's that, and then the rest of this, to me, should be reworded on purchase policy, whether you're buying furniture, copiers, TVs, dump trucks, pumps down at the treatment plant, and maybe that thing could be reworded, again, we're not saying that Kip go out and spend $100,000 like that, maybe from 0 to something, 0 to 30,000, but you're still gonna get 1 or 2 or 3 different numbers, so you're still getting competitive quotes. But it's just this idea that get RFPs, advertise in the newspaper. I don't think that fits for buying equipment and, you know, across the board, full gamut type of thing.
That makes sense to me, and I think the other piece is to, that I've heard is figure out this Minnesota purchasing capability and the US communities, get that documented as to how, that we can use that. So that's, because that's, there's pre-bidding that's already gone on.
Right. I believe at the front of this document, it also talks about specifically trying to find or take advantage of published schedules and published bidders or people that could do the work, kind of like, what is it, Garland, or, you know, those types of entities. So, do we want to send the statute to Catherine again for clarification, or do you want some kind of, want to bring this back, or what do you, how do you want to proceed from here?
I don't know, the other day we had a little workshop on, so I don't know if it's worth having a little workshop with Catherine and, you know, maybe it's a finance committee, maybe it's, you know, a couple of our, you know, Kip and myself and Tom or whoever the other directors are in a group, and then have a little workshop and try to iron some of these issues out and at least have some discussion.
I think Devin
How
kind of
often are,
mentioned.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Yeah,
interrupt you.
I think Devin mentioned he'd like to have a meeting with the mayor and some of you guys involved, and kind of just sit down with the two
Okay.
before it goes to
How often are purchase orders used?
every day,
Yeah, quite often. Pretty
How-
much everything we purchase.
from 1 penny to
Yeah,
million.
it's a lot.
It's a good
So,
way just to, you know, especially with our operating budget, I mean, and then when it gets to the end of the year, we have to make sure before we spend anything that we get a PO and we know we have a balance in our operating budget. It's a little different when we do our capital money, because we, you know where that is, but our operating budget, we get a PO just about every time.
Well, the purchasing order process works really well. I mean, it's great, it's fine, because
are
it
the
does allocate those funds, and sometimes it gets a little cumbersome for some of the bigger projects where we don't give any, when you enter into a letter of engagement and you're only allowed $300,000, but then some of the services come over and, you know, Tom has to approve them, and then we have to come back to committee and ask for more money and things like that. But, so those get a little bit different for the purchasing, but otherwise,
Well, I
no,
like,
it's,
kind of like what Jim was, what Jim just said, maybe if we could get on paper an example of the Minnesota state bid, maybe just, here's a process that some community did, they bought a truck, or they bought something, and here's how it worked, boom, 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 just a little quick summary sheet on that, and then another example of potential, like this US communities. Here's a community that bought X, they went through a process on US communities. If we just had another example that said they bought a something, you know,
Well, we
Echo or something, and then they went through and just, I think that would be helpful for, I'm not up on US communities, so, like, I'll admit that right now, but, so just maybe an example of here's a purchase through that, and here's a purchase through that would be helpful, this whole discussion.
But
maybe.
also to know what the group, what that entity, how they're going about getting their bids, or how they're.
Well, no, that's what I'm talking about, an
process is.
example that some community started with a need, we want to buy a truck, and we're gonna use the Minnesota state bid, so here's what we did, we wanted XYZ type of truck, and I don't know, however that process works, we went through the Minnesota bid, we called 3 different people to get a bid, or, again, just on paper, a certain example, unless you guys maybe have them, I don't know.
Tom, are you suggesting
And then
that-
another one with the US communities.
Tom, are you saying we need to know more about how US Community sets up their
Exactly.
these candidates, and then
Yeah.
how the Minnesota process works?
Yep.
Just to verify that gives us some confidence in the process, that it's being managed professionally. You know, it probably is, but none of us really know that. So if we're going to
Yep.
use that as a resource, we ought to be confident about that. And I'm for that, you know, because you're bidding as part of a larger group then, and that's effective.
Well, that's how governments get to take advantage of purchasing or, you know, buyer schedules and groups that participate. We should be able to go back over the last 5 years and look at average purchase price, how many items did we buy, how many are under $30,000, or we should be able to get to a point where we're not picking an arbitrary number. We should be able to say, hey, we bought 500 items and 98% of them were under $30,000, and we had to go out for bid, and it took all this time. And we have, you're right, we've bought a lot of stuff, and we have the records of those somewhere. I'm sure we do.
Well, if it's all capital, that's really easy to get capital. I mean, I guess,
So for non-construction, how many things have we bought? And if nothing, if 85 or 90% of these were purchased under $30,000, maybe $30,000 is the number that if it goes above that 5%, these are probably pretty substantial, and we either buy off a schedule or have to go for a competitive bid based on that. So
that's a
I'm
tough-
looking for a number that makes sense based on what we do here at Hudson. So I think that we should be able to do that. Then everyone can wrap their mind around it and say, okay, most of the items were from 10 to 15,000, and if we spend time posting bids and all that, we're wasting money and time on these things. So why should we keep doing that? Because you just said we spent $7,000 on extra in a dump truck, and Kip said we spent another 20 grand going out for bid on a roof project that's already going to be, that's 10% of the $200,000 to replace the roof kind of thing. So, I mean, that, I think we're spending money where we don't need to. So I get that too.
And I guess, the other thing, and I think somebody hit on it earlier, and I think it's important too, is that with budgeted items, I mean, I'll just use my truck or my car, for example. It's a budgeted item for 2016. It's $30,000. Is there some limit that you set that internally that just gets approved? I don't know how you guys feel as aldermen, if you approved it in the budget, do we need to keep bringing this back time after time after time? I had to bring it back to 4 different committees to purchase a vehicle that you approved in the 2016 budget. I mean, you get
Well,
what I'm
that's the
saying?
current policy that has to go
Right.
through subcommittee
Right, but I'm
and then
saying that-
finance and then, yeah.
But I'm
right.
saying that, is that something that should be looked at?
So
too?
you're
I mean,
saying-
do you guys feel, is it, if you've already approved it, and I'm just asking your feeling, if you've already approved it in the budget, is it cumbersome to keep bringing this back to have, like you said, you voted on this 3 times, and I'm not saying not to do it, but I'm just, if it's a budgeted item, is there something else that can work?
So are you saying that if it's a budgeted item, why should you have to come back at all?
Well, or do I just get it approved by the administrator?
Right.
Since it's a budgeted item, we already know the cost, is the administrator, would the administrator have the authority to just say, yes, it's a budgeted item, you've already, council's approved it.
That's what we're really
Let's
kind
just
of
move this
pushing
forward.
for.
Let's just move this forward and go. Instead of me taking 3 months to try to get an item that I already had approved in the budget
Yeah, I get it.
prior.
Yep.
I guess if you.
No, that makes
understand.
perfect
Well, the
sense, yeah.
administrator could do an update of it, however you would request it, once a month or whatever, that he could have just everything that he's signed off on. I mean, yeah, it could be after the fact, but at least you're aware of what's being purchased out there over a certain dollar amount, too, because, that's what I think we're trying to get away from, is trying to do it internally. Our city administrator is, we provide him with all the documents right in front, we go through them, we provide him with a bid tabulation, he agrees on it, and he signs off on it. And those are, right now, we're doing it at 15,000 or less, and so, if that dollar amount could be higher and gives you a little bit more flexibility, that we're not having to deal with all the public bidding. And 30,000 for equipment is, to me, that would be a good number. 30 for
But again,
that smaller equipment.
I think we could do the analysis to come up with a number that isn't even arbitrary. It's a
Right.
number that encompasses most of our purchases. I think that would be
Yeah.
ideal, because then we're not having to do this again in 2 or 3 or 4 or 5
Mm-hmm.
years kind of thing. So if that's possible, that'd be great. So
Yeah, I'll have to talk to him about that. I'm not sure what the.
do we want to send this back to staff then? Is this what you're saying? City mayor and administrator and,
That's what he sounded like he wanted to.
okay, perfect.
I agree. I think we would like to be informed of the large purchases that were in the budget, but they're just saying, just so we're aware that it's happened.
Right.
It's just a matter of being aware as opposed to
Could even be
approving.
consent agenda items that just go through and we see it and read about it, but we're not, it's just simple,
Right.
that would be okay by me too, I guess.
Key
But
purchases over $30,000 or whatever the limits are, that would be.
Right.
Because we cannot be approving every purchase. It's just,
it's kind of fun, but not that fun.
So I'll
We've
send
already
it
approved
to,
it.
talk to Devin about it, and then he can determine where it should go from here and set a meeting with staff then, I guess.
Sure. Do you want me to make a motion to that or effect? Okay, I'll move to pass it back to city administrator and to discuss it with the department heads and the mayor
And city attorney?
and the city attorney.
as needed. Yeah, I second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Let's see, on to the next item, which is discussion, possible action on the job description, the wastewater treatment facility chief operator. I believe that's you. Yep.
What you've got in front of you is, it's basically, we had a job description for the wastewater treatment facility chief operator before. Some of the job duties have changed with me coming on board with running both departments now, water and sewer. Some of their requirements have changed in terms of what they need to do daily, things like that. So I went through, rewrote their job descriptions. I did the exact same thing for the water side, which they did approve in, what was it, a month or a couple weeks ago or something like that. So I guess kind of what I'm looking for is just an approval on just the new job description. This has gone through Devin. He has looked at it and commented and like that, so.
How's it different from the former job description?
It-
Broadview.
It gives the lead operator more daily direction in terms of with the staff. What does the staff do during the day? He's the one directing them in the direction that they go. He makes some of the calls on emergency situations. If a pump goes down, what do we want to do? Things like that. It's just, like I said, with me coming on board with running both departments, I can't be everywhere. So it just kind of gives them a little bit more flexibility in terms of making daily decisions.
So is this creating a position or just modifying the job description of a current position?
It's modifying the job description of a current.
All right. And you would like us to do what with this?
I guess I'm just looking for an approval on the job description, and then at that point, I would designate an operator in charge or designate somebody in that position, so.
The position's
Which would-
empty now?
No, it's Joe Boudry fills it today, and Joe Boudry's gonna fill it tomorrow. It's just updating his job description, I guess,
Okay.
that's the,
We've added a similar position, not modified one for public utilities for water.
right.
Right.
So we're trying to have two leads in both camps so that Kip can continue to be the director. Yet still have infield presence. Any other discussion on that?
No. I'll move to approve the job description.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion?
This isn't my department, but it seems very similar to my situation with my foreman. I don't know the compensation, but for my foreman, is this gonna be similar to that? I mean, would it be a good idea to keep those salaries similar? I don't know if that was gonna be the case or not.
That's
Where are we
coming up.
talking about salaries?
That's on number 7.
Don't know if there's gonna be any compensation difference for this. I know there was a, I don't.
There's, I think we're going into closed session. to
That's
talk
the
about
next
these
item.
things, so, yeah. So good segue. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right, and Tom, as,
Make a motion to go into closed session?
is there a second? I'll second that. All those in favor? Aye. Aye.
Okay, so does anybody have to leave?
Do you want us to come back, or we have?
So we're back in open session.
Open.
Awesome.
I think I have to.
So we need a motion to approve an increase in employee compensation for the updated wastewater treatment facility chief operator.
So move. So move.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, fantastic.
Okay.
Project update, Public Works.
Yeah, I got a couple things I can just give you, try to
Okay.
get through the list. Tower Road, just so you know where that is, we pretty much have a draft agreement put together. Devin and I worked on some things, and I believe, I don't know, I didn't talk to him today, he was gonna pass along to Catherine so that that agreement can be reviewed and executed by both the city and the town going forward on that project. Hopefully we'll get that thing, trying to shoot for maybe even a February bid, maybe March, and then actually have a March award and then start construction in May is what we would like to do with that. Again, that agreement has to be agreed upon. Vine Street, we're pretty much, I'd say somewhere in the 80-85% complete on plan prep. We have scheduled a neighborhood public informational meeting for the night of January 6th to be held here in the council chambers. At that time, we'll introduce the project to the adjacent residents on the project, get citizen input, and give a presentation and take some questions and input on that
So-
project.
Public hearing, Vine Street, January 6th.
No, not a public hearing. It's a public informational meeting.
Informational meeting, and what time does that start, Tom?
6 o'clock. They'll be in the paper this week. We put
Okay,
an ad in the
6 p.m.
paper this week. So 6 o'clock on January 6th.
Informational meeting.
Correct.
And that is January 6th at what time, Tom?
6 p.m.
6,
6 p.m.
Yeah.
the 6th at 6.
We can send you the notice.
Yeah, we can fire that one out.
Cool.
Quick update on the GIS. We did, the council did approve a letter of engagement with SEH relative to performing those services at the last council meeting. Just to let you know that we're pretty much, we're kind of on hold for two reasons. One is obviously the winter weather, because I think it's not cost efficient to go out there and battle the snow to start some of this field inventory. The other thing we're waiting on is pretty much, we're waiting on the grant agreements. The city was approved for a DNR grant, stormwater grant, and we thought we were gonna get that agreement in here in November. So the worry is we don't wanna start work prior to having that agreement executed or possibly jeopardize some of our funding. So we wanna make sure that the agreement is in hand, executed, prior to start charging time and effort against that project. So hopefully that agreement will come in here shortly. We're hoping shortly in January here. The other thing, 2015 pathway project was completed just before the winter hit, I guess. That was Prospect Park, bituminous surfacing, and then down on Lakefront, we had about a 150-foot stretch of new pathway north of the boat launch. And then on Picnic Point side, on the south side of the boat launch, we had about 750 feet, something like that, of, we pretty much removed the asphalt and replaced it on that pathway. So that's pretty much the update on those jobs. I don't know if Tom has got anything more on.
Burton Field renovation, the electrical's in. I think they're gonna have the plumbing fixtures in tomorrow. So the warming house, I think we're down to just painting. Don't know if that'll be done this winter yet, but so the warming house restroom should be completed, very soon. And we're just waiting for some cold weather to start flooding the rinks up there. Other than that, we're in kind of the snow plowing mode the last few days, and I think things are going pretty well so far.
Kip, how about you, Ernie?
The only thing that I got major is the bid opening for the implant roof is January 5th. So we had excellent turnout. We had a kind of a pre-construction walkthrough or pre-bid walkthrough where the guys could get on the roof and see what all has to be done. This room was full. So we were hoping to get some really good pricing out of that. So we'll know that on January 5th. And then that'll be brought forward for approval and stuff like that. And I guess, you know, unless I'm gonna save it for future agenda. I do have, we had discussed talking about the sanitary rate increase at some point. Water is currently looking at an increase. Nothing is actually gonna happen until February. We did talk to, I believe it's Clifton Larson Allen, our auditors, so they can do it for us. They'll be here, I have a meeting set up with them in February to start looking at the water side of it. What we're gonna do, or what my suggestion is that we're gonna have them look at everything before we actually start the official process, just to give us a ballpark on what they're thinking and where we're gonna end up percentage-wise of an increase. I'd like to do the same thing in sewer. It's very easily done, and then at that point, I'll update you guys on what their research, what they think, and what their thoughts are, and then we'll go from there. So that'll be February, March, by the time we have all that information, so.
Anything else for future items?
Say, Tom S.
Yep.
Are we gonna have another meeting on the assessment policy?
Well, I know somebody asked some more, I guess the two things, somebody wanted a couple more examples on, I guess on that, we showed Grandview Avenue, the project from about 3-4 years ago,
Yeah.
and again, it was about $10,000 a lot, had the entire 100% project cost been assessed. Again, so if you take 50% of that, it's 5,000, or a third is 3,300, or 20% is 22,000. So I don't know, there's a little bit, not sure who wants more numbers on that, but because that's pretty much where that fell. I know one question that the mayor brought up was still on, again, looking at some of these commercial projects, like, again, this year we did Cooley Road up on the hill in front of Target and such. And he wanted to know if there's some kind of different zoning relative, and again, if the council goes forward and revises the amount of the assessment, is it across the board, or is the participation gonna be the same for residential as it is to commercial? And I think what the mayor was looking at is, in the commercial, is, you know, we have some kind of a big difference between big box Target type stores up on the hill, and then even some of the downtown or on Vine Street, there's some smaller entities where you have a legal office or a small flower shop or some of those types of things. So from a zoning perspective, we're gonna try to see, I don't know what we have for, if there's a commercial 1, commercial 2, commercial 3 type zoning, and see how that might apply, but that was the second thing we were gonna.
Have you found any, we're getting off target, so have you found any other assessment policies that have that breakdown in commercial, have that different?
Well, yeah, actually, I've been through, I don't know, 15, 20,
Okay.
25 different communities. The one list, again, I had some from the Twin Cities area there, but the one, I think I had a list of 6, don't go, it's 13 or 14 or 15 or 16, somewhere in their communities that do treat commercial properties differently than residential, i.e. the commercial assessments are higher than
Well, I
residential.
understand that. I'm talking about within commercial. Have you looked at any where they have these different classifications?
Well, no, I haven't. I guess I could look and see what they have relative to zoning.
I'm not asking you to do that. I just wondered if you had done it.
No. But I can make a quick call.
No, I just wonder if we're reinventing the wheel, if it's already been done someplace, and if it works or whatever.
Well, to me, that's more of a zoning question than it is an assessment per se question. But I'll come back with a couple of examples, you know, again, somebody, maybe it's gotta be based on,
Yeah, I
there's
think
a
we were gonna
commercial
put it
with us.
on, we did discuss a fair amount at the last council meeting, and I think they were gonna put it on for one or the other meeting in January also, so.
Okay, yeah, I
We'll
wasn't
get
there,
more
so I
coming.
missed it.
We'll be able to talk about it again.
All right,
Sorry to take up your time.
No, that's fine.
with that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody. Happy New Year.